In my past life, Chandler Finch's parents died in an accident, and I begged my parents to adopt him. After that, I followed him everywhere, urging him to study, teaching him how to build a business, molding him into someone worthy of success. But just when he finally made it, and was about to marry me, I found him tangled up in the bridal suite, with the impoverished student I had sponsored. Furious, I confronted them. Instead of remorse, Chandler shoved me. My head hit the corner of a table, hard. He looked down at me with disdain and sneered. "What do you mean you helped me? Everything I have, I earned it myself." And then? "Monica, let me be honest. I've hated you for a long time. You nagged me about everything like some annoying old hag." I closed my eyes, hatred surging through me as I bled out on the floor. When I opened them again, I was back. At Chandler's parents' funeral. But this time, instead of collapsing in grief as he did before, Chandler was staring at their portraits, laughing. His manic laughter echoed through the hall. The funeral music stopped. Everyone froze, horrified. Chandler doubled over, clutching his stomach as he cackled. "Ha ha ha. I, Chandler Finch, was never meant to die. Heaven gave me a second chance. This time, I'll rise to the top." They all thought he was delirious from grief. But I knew the truth. Chandler had been reborn, just like me. In our past life, Chandler's parents worked for my family, his mother was our maid, and his father, our chauffeur. The day they died, I had forgotten my exam papers and asked Chandler's father to bring them. His mother, eager for a taste of luxury, insisted on going along to do some grocery shopping. On their way back, a flip truck crushed the car. They died instantly. Logically, my family wasn't at fault. That car was meant for my use, not hers. But at the funeral, seeing Chandler kneeling, trembling and hollow-eyed, I softened. He collapsed in front of my parents, begging not to be abandoned, pleading to stay in school. I had always gotten along with him. My heart ached. And besides, they had died running an errand for me. So I pleaded with my parents to adopt him. From then on, I poured everything into him. I tutored him, drilled him, shaped his future. And when he proposed, I thought I had one. Until I caught him with her. "Monica's so dull compared to you," the girl giggled. "The only reason I ever cared was because of her family's money," Chandler replied. "Marrying her is just a stepping stone. Once her family funds my IPO, I'll dump her and bring you back. You're such a wild little minx. That's why I adore you." Their filthy whispers burned in my ears. Blinded by rage, I stormed in. Chandler shoved me to the floor like trash. As I lay dying, I used the last of my strength to stab him with a fruit knife. Now, back at that same funeral, watching him laugh like a lunatic, my gaze turned cold. "Chandler Finch, let's see how far you get this time, without me." I turned to my mother just as she was about to step out of the car. I had already convinced my parents to adopt Chandler. But now... "Mom," I said coldly, "I don't want you to adopt Chandler anymore." My parents looked at each other, puzzled. I couldn't tell them I had been reborn. So I clung to my mother's arm and pouted like a stubborn teen. "I just don't like him anymore. He's arrogant and full of himself. I refuse to let him be my brother." My parents hesitated. But they knew Chandler's pride well, and finally agreed. Just as we were about to drive off, a commotion erupted near the hall. Why should I take him in? I'm just his uncle. I'm a woman. I already have 2 kids, and my son's preparing for college. I can't take care of him. Then who can? His father helped you plenty. Don't you dare accuse me. I paid for this whole funeral. Curious, I peeked out the window. Chandler stood in the center of the crowd, head down, humiliation written all over his face. The moment I stepped out to get a better look, his head snapped up. He glared at me with fury. "Stop fighting. None of you are worthy of taking me in," he barked. "I don't need any of you. I'll succeed on my own. One day, I'll become a tycoon. Just watch. The crowd pitted him, thinking grief had driven him mad. But I knew better. Then, to my shock, he pushed through the crowd, straight toward our car, and tried to climb in. I blocked him. "What do you think you're doing?" I asked. "Took you long enough," he snapped, as if I were his servant. I smiled sweetly. "Who are you? And why do you think you can get in my family's car?" Chandler froze, then scoffed. "Didn't you beg me to be your brother? Sure, you're not pretty, and your grades are average, but I guess you'll do." He softened his voice like he was pacifying a child. "Fine. I shouldn't have refused to let you copy my homework. You can cheat off me later, okay?" Again, he reached for the car door. Again, I stopped him. Twice rejected, Chandler's face darkened. "Who do you think you are? Why should my family adopt you?" He stiffened as if struck. Before he could answer, my parents stepped out. "Chandler," my father said firmly, "we're sorry for your loss. But you can't force yourself onto us. The traffic police confirmed it was your father's fault. Our car was completely wrecked, yet we haven't even asked you for compensation. But since Monica has such a kind heart, and because you two grew up together, we've decided to let it slide. That said, don't get any ideas. A toad will always be a toad. Don't fool yourself into thinking you'll ever become a swan." Chandler turned deathly pale at my parents' words. He looked at me in disbelief, but I had already slipped into the car and closed the door. Once my parents mentioned the possibility of Chandler bringing debt with him, his relatives grew even more reluctant to take him in. In the end, it was a distant aunt, half convinced by his grandiose talk of future wealth, who begrudgingly agreed to take him. The day after the funeral, Chandler showed up at school. He was no longer in his second-hand clothes. Instead, he wore a crisp, brand-new uniform. Spotting me in the hallway, he strutted over with his chin held high. "Some people will stoop to anything just to get my attention," he sneered. "Monica, did you really think I couldn't survive without you? See this uniform? My aunt bought it for me. And you know what I realized after leaving your house? Your family treated us like slaves. My parents worked for you for years, and died because of you. Yet the wages your family paid were so pathetic, I couldn't even afford a new uniform. And when they died, you didn't give us a single cent." Gasps echoed around the hallway. Our classmates stood frozen. It was common knowledge that Chandler's parents had worked for my family. And just days ago, when the accident happened, the whole class had organized a fundraiser for him. "Wait, isn't Monica's family super rich?" one student whispered. "She rides to school in a luxury car, and her shoes are designer. How could Chandler's parents die serving them, and they didn't even offer compensation? That's disgusting. She flaunts her wealth while feeding off the pain of others? That's sick." Their words stabbed like knives. I looked up, and saw Chandler, smirking triumphantly. But here was the truth. Chandler's parents had worked for us for nearly a decade. My parents always paid them the highest market wages. There was no abuse, no exploitation. As for the accident? It was entirely their fault. And Chandler's lack of a proper uniform? That wasn't on us. His own parents never thought it worth buying him one. With a cold snort, I pulled out my phone and tapped on a video. It was dashcam footage from the day of the accident. On the screen, Chandler's mother ran her hands eagerly along the car's interior. "Wow, this luxury car really is something. Look at all these decorations, must have cost a fortune." "Of course," Chandler's father replied. "That spoiled brat Monica wastes money on this junk. They should have raised our salaries instead." But I didn't flinch. Arms crossed, I stared him down. "Who do you think you are? Why should my family adopt you?" He stiffened as if struck. Before he could answer, my parents stepped out. "Chandler," my father said firmly, "we're sorry for your loss. But you can't force yourself onto us. The traffic police confirmed it was your father's fault. Our car was completely wrecked, Yet we haven't even asked you for compensation. But since Monica has such a kind heart, and because you two grew up together, we've decided to let it slide. That said, don't get any ideas. A toad will always be a toad. Don't fool yourself into thinking you'll ever become a swan. Chandler turned deathly pale at my parents' words. He looked at me in disbelief, but I had already slipped into the car and closed the door. Once my parents mentioned the possibility of Chandler bringing debt with him, his relatives grew even more reluctant to take him in. In the end, it was a distant aunt, half convinced by his grandiose talk of future wealth, who begrudgingly agreed to take him. The day after the funeral, Chandler showed up at school. He was no longer in his second-hand clothes. Instead, he wore a crisp, brand-new uniform. Spotting me in the hallway, he strutted over with his chin held high. Some people will stoop to anything just to get my attention, he sneered. Monica, did you really think I couldn't survive without you? See this uniform? My aunt bought it for me. And you know what I realized after leaving your house? Your family treated us like slaves. My parents worked for you for years, and died because of you. Yet the wages your family paid were so pathetic, I couldn't even afford a new uniform. And when they died, you didn't give us a single cent. Gasps echoed around the hallway. Our classmates stood frozen. It was common knowledge that Chandler's parents had worked for my family. And just days ago, when the accident happened, the whole class had organized a fundraiser for him. Wait, isn't Monica's family super rich? One student whispered. She rides to school in a luxury car, and her shoes are designer. How could Chandler's parents die serving them, and they didn't even offer compensation? That's disgusting. She flaunts her wealth while feeding off the pain of others? That's sick. Their words stabbed like knives. I looked up, and saw Chandler, smirking triumphantly. But here was the truth. Chandler's parents had worked for us for nearly a decade. My parents always paid them the highest market wages. There was no abuse, no exploitation. As for the accident? It was entirely their fault. And Chandler's lack of a proper uniform? That wasn't on us. His own parents never thought it worth buying him one. With a cold snort, I pulled out my phone and tapped on a video. It was dashcam footage from the day of the accident. On the screen, Chandler's mother ran her hands eagerly along the car's interior. Wow, this luxury car really is something. Look at all these decorations, must have cost a fortune. Of course, Chandler's father replied. That spoiled brat Monica wastes money on this junk. They should have raised our salaries instead. There's so much stuff here, think she'd notice if we pocketed a few things? Is this figurine gold? Probably not. But this brand's expensive, we could pawn it for some quick cash. They were so absorbed in their petty theft that they didn't notice the truck swerving in front of them. A deafening crash. The car slammed into the guardrail, setting off a chain collision involving over a dozen vehicles. Chandler's parents died instantly. The hallway fell silent as the video ended. I turned to Chandler, whose face had gone ghostly white. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He had just watched the truth, his parents lost their lives over greed. And now everyone else knew too. When the classmates finally learned the truth, their expressions shifted. Uneasy glances were exchanged. The room fell silent. That's when Jessica, the class monitor and the same impoverished student I had once sponsored, stepped forward. She snatched my phone with a fake smile. Come on, Monica, this is just a big misunderstanding. Why be so petty? Chandler didn't mean it. His parents just died, he's grieving. Can't you let it go? And let's not forget, they died delivering your exam papers. Since your family's so rich, why not just pay some compensation? My fists clenched at her saccharine tone. She was a wolf in sheep's clothing. In my past life, I had gone on a charity trip to the mountains with my parents. There, I saw her being beaten by her family. Tearfully, she had knelt before me, showing bruises and claiming her parents favored boys and refused to send her to school. Moved by her story, I convinced my parents to sponsor her education in the city. Only much later did I discover the truth. Jessica had targeted my family from the start. Her parents hadn't beaten her because of sexism. That day, she had stolen the family's entire food budget, just to buy makeup. In a place where people struggled to eat, she had squandered their survival money on vanity. The fact that her parents didn't disown her then? That was kindness, not hers. Now, pretending to defend Chandler? Just another scheme. They were already working together, planning to milk me for money. Without hesitation, I raised my hand, and slapped her. Twice. Twin red marks bloomed across her cheeks. Jessica clutched her face, stunned. Tears welled up instantly. Monica. I was only trying to keep people from talking badly about you. Why would you hit me? The class erupted. Monica, how dare you slap someone like that in front of everyone? Just because you're rich doesn't mean you can treat people this way. Jessica's the kindest one here, and you hit her? I scoffed. My family's wealth is hard-earned. What gives you the right to judge? The video proves Chandler's parents caused their own deaths. What good has ever come from thieves' blood? And Jessica? If you care so much about Chandler, stop taking my money. Or have you forgotten? I'm the reason you're even here. Whispers rippled through the class. No one had known the truth. My parents had given Jessica the same monthly allowance as me, and she'd quickly picked up lavish habits. Her parents never came to school events, and she dodged questions about her background. Everyone had assumed she was some hidden heiress. Now exposed, Jessica's face turned ashen. What are you talking about? I'm here because of my parents, she stammered. I didn't bother responding. I gathered my books and turned to leave. But as I stepped forward, Chandler blocked my path. His eyes flashed with rage. Monica, what gives you the right to act so smug? Everything you have was handed to you by your parents. You'll see. I'm about to launch my first game. And when I do, I'll be filthy rich. His eyes gleamed with pride. But I wasn't impressed. In our past life, his so-called success only happened because I had been the one pushing him forward. He'd given up on coding after barely scratching the surface. I was the one who stayed up late night after night, fixing his broken projects. This time, I wouldn't lift a finger. Let's see how far he gets on his own. Convinced of his future stardom, Chandler began skipping class. He bragged that grades didn't matter for someone like him. Not even the teachers could stop him. One afternoon, I stayed behind to solve an advanced problem from our math teacher. That's when Chandler strutted in, with Jessica clinging to his arm. He slammed a red banknote onto my desk. See this, Monica? I'm earning real money now. Go get lunch for me and Jessica. Keep the change. I'm not stingy like you. He tilted his chin, looking down on me like I was beneath him. I didn't even glance up. I crumpled the bill and tossed it aside. Chandler lunged forward, snatching the money like it was sacred. How dare you disrespect me like that? Do you even realize how much I've made already? Let me spell it out. An investor offered me $5 million to develop a game. $5 million? Can your brain even process that? Gasps filled the classroom. $5 million? I've never seen even a fraction of that. His grades might suck, but if he can earn that much, who needs school? I'd drop out too if I had his skills. Basking in their awe, Chandler shot me a smug look and pulled out his phone. Want to see the beta version? I took one look, and understood everything. He was rushing to recreate the same game that made him rich in our past life. But his team lacked the talent. The storyline, the characters, the mechanics, all of that came from my team's sleepless nights back then. That game had made over $300 million before. Now? It was worth $5 million for a recycled imitation. I lowered my eyes, not in regret, but almost in pity. Jessica mistook my silence. She shoved me and hissed. Regretting it now? Too late. You used to look down on us, but Chandler's going to surpass you. You'll see. One day, he'll buy out your family's company. Then we'll see how arrogant you are. I stared at Jessica in disbelief as she threw her little tantrum right in front of me. How on earth did she actually believe Chandler's measly $5 million could buy out my parents' company? When she saw the disdain in my eyes, Jessica suddenly grabbed my hand, then slapped herself with it. She dropped to the floor, looking up at Chandler with pitiful tears in her eyes. Chandler, this is all my fault. I shouldn't have come between you and Monica. But I really like you. A woman like her doesn't deserve your affection. A single tear rolled down her cheek, perfectly timed. Chandler's face twisted with sympathy. He rushed to help her up, then turned and raised his hand to strike me. Monica. You've got some nerve. You claim you don't want anything to do with me, and then you hit Jessica? I gave you a chance, and you threw it away. Don't blame me for what happens next. His palm came flying toward my face. But I caught his wrist mid-air, effortlessly. With a sharp twist, he held in pain. What kind of trash dares bark at me like this? Jessica shrieked and lunged to save him. I kicked her to the ground, let go of Chandler, and, without hesitation, slapped her across the face. A perfect imprint of 5 fingers bloomed on her cheek. The class froze. Not a sound. I turned to her and sneered. That was a real slap. Jessica scrambled away, clutching her face, and fled the classroom in tears. Moments later, she returned, with a teacher in tow. Teacher. It was her. She hit me, look at my face. The teacher looked around. Chandler was disheveled, Jessica sobbing, and I stood calm and composed. What exactly happened here? She demanded. Chandler spoke first, loud and righteous. It was all Monica. She couldn't handle seeing me succeed, so she attacked us. Jessica nodded, sniffling pitifully. The teacher turned to the rest of the class for confirmation. But they all stayed silent, too scared or too stunned to speak. The teacher frowned and looked at me. Monica, did you hit Jessica? I did, I replied firmly. Jessica's eyes widened in shock, then rage. Before the teacher could reprimand me, I held up my phone. But you should listen to this first. From the speaker, Jessica's voice rang out. Monica, you never understood why I hated you, did you? It's simple, because your family is rich. I can't stand how you act so high and mighty. What's so great about having money? Let's see, if Chandler sees you hit me, who do you think he'll side with? Smack. That was the slap, her slap. Using my hand. Ever since my death at their hands in my past life, I had made it a habit to record everything. And today, it paid off. The teacher's expression shifted instantly. Jessica had dug her own grave. Without hesitation, she turned to Jessica and scolded her harshly. Jessica, once the model student, the teacher's pet, had finally been unmasked. Humiliated, she stomped her foot and ran out of the classroom. The teacher sighed and gently placed a hand on my shoulder. The college entrance exams are coming. Don't let people like them distract you. Just focus on your studies. I nodded. And that same day, I called my parents and told them to cut off Jessica's sponsorship. They were surprised, but didn't question my decision. At first, Jessica, now penniless, tried to confront me again. But just as she reached the classroom door, Chandler dragged her away, to the rooftop. Curious, I followed quietly. As I reached the top, I heard her panicked voice. Why did you stop me? Monica cut my stipend, I might starve. You said you'd support me even if I stood up to her. Where is it, Chandler? She shoved him, angry and desperate. Chandler put on a dramatic expression and pulled her into a sudden embrace. Baby, trust me. I'll give you a life of luxury. Why beg for Monica's measly 10,000 yuan allowance? I'll send you 50,000 right now. Your man won't let you suffer. Her eyes lit up immediately. Clinging to him, she showered him with praise. Flushed with pride, Chandler transferred the money. Then he murmured sweetly, "Jessica, drop out and join my startup. Top grades won't make you rich, but I will." Jessica hesitated. But before she could say no, Chandler transferred another $50,000. "Don't worry. You'll never go broke. This venture will succeed, I guarantee it." Blinded by greed, Jessica kissed him right there on the rooftop. Chandler eagerly deepened the kiss. I quietly slipped away. From that day on, neither of them ever returned to school. The teacher tried to contact their families. Jessica's parents didn't care. Chandler's aunt laughed and said, "If he's starting a business, then good for him." And hung up. Eventually, the teacher gave up. Weeks later, I was leading a group of classmates to a bookstore when we passed by a local bar. Someone pointed at a provocatively dressed woman standing by the door. "Isn't that Jessica? I thought she left with Chandler for a better life. Who's that old man she's with?" Others turned and gasped. "No way, she's really working there now? I saw her student file last week. She's not rich at all, she's from a remote village. She only got to study here because of Monica's charity." A gold digger like her latched onto Chandler, and I actually thought she'd make it big? Now she's clinging to some old man? Wait, look. Isn't that Chandler coming out from inside? Following their stares, I spotted him. Chandler emerged in a cheap, ill-fitting black suit. He'd gained weight in the months since he left school. His face was scruffy, and his appearance, slovenly. Then I noticed him subtly signaling to Jessica. She hesitated, then obediently wrapped her arms around the old man's waist. Without shame, the man kissed her cheek. My classmates gasped in disgust. "Damn. Jessica's into that?" I said nothing, just studied the scene with a distant expression. I had once taken Chandler to countless business events in our past life, hoping to teach him tact, strategy, and elegance. He learned none of it, only the sleaze. And still, as much as I despised Jessica, watching her degrade herself like that made my stomach twist. I stepped forward. "What's going on here?" My voice sliced through the air. The older man panicked at the sight of me and instantly let go of Jessica. But Chandler misread my arrival. "Monica," he sneered, stepping in front of her, "still not over me? I thought I made it clear, I'd never love someone like you. Though, if you beg on your knees, I might consider playing with you for a while." I ignored him. My gaze shifted to Jessica. "Look at what you're wearing. Would a man who respected you let you dress like that in public? Jessica, I'm warning you, don't throw yourself away for a man." Chandler's eyes darkened. He shoved me violently. "Shut your mouth." But I didn't back down. I kept my eyes on Jessica. Yes, she was despicable. But I had been the one who brought her out of the mountains. I had raised her up. I wanted to defeat her, but not like this. She spat on my offer. Her stilettos clicked as she stepped closer, eyes burning with pride. "Save your fake concern, Monica. This is business. President Wong signed a $100 million deal with us just days ago. Our company's going public. Soon enough, even you'll have to call me Mrs. Finch." Delusional. I cast one glance at the silent, uncomfortable President Wong before turning my back. The National College entrance exams arrived. I led my class into the testing hall. As soon as I exited the exam room, my phone buzzed with notifications, from Jessica. Ever since the bar incident, she'd been obsessively sending me proof of her perfect life, screenshots of transfers from Chandler, photos of handbags, luxury outfits, sparkling jewelry, even a plain bowl of noodles Chandler had cooked for her. She was drowning in the fantasy, desperate to prove she'd made the right choice. Then came the big one. She sent me a link to a news article. Chandler's company was going public. They had clearly invested heavily in PR. Every major platform was cycling through the same headline. "The legendary rise of Chandler Finch." I smirked. and typed one sentence. Time to close the net. The reply came instantly. I opened the live stream of Chandler's IPO launch, watching with interest. He was mid-speech, radiating arrogance, when the reporters, previously disengaged, suddenly perked up. A young journalist raised his phone. Mr. Finch, your game has gained immense popularity, especially among younger players. They say it was entirely developed by you, is that true? Chandler's eyes sparkled with pride as he grabbed the mic. Absolutely. I'm the sole creator. The reporter's smile turned razor-sharp. Then you admit to plagiarism? Because your game is 90% identical to a title released 6 months ago by Lynn Corporation. Chandler's face drained of color. Just as he opened his mouth to deny it, his assistant ran onto the stage, face pale. Boss. It's bad. The internet's flooded with plagiarism accusations. Our stock prices are crashing. The mic picked up everything. Reporters pounced like sharks. Mr. Finch, did you copy Lynn Corporation's work? At the banquet last month, you said you'd become the top developer in the country. Was plagiarism your strategy? You didn't even take the college entrance exam, how could you possibly develop something of this scale? Chandler stumbled over his words, his confident mask cracking. In the audience, Jessica couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed the mic. We didn't plagiarize. Lynn Corporation stole our ideas. Gasps echoed across the room. The tension exploded, accusations flying in every direction. That's when my voice cut through. Lynn Corporation has no reason to steal from an unknown startup. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look. There I stood, projected onto the venue's main screen, still in my school uniform. Behind me was a live slideshow of time-stamped concept art, source code, early builds, all filed under Lynn Corporation's archive. We have proof. What does Mr. Finch have? Cameras flashed wildly. Reporters shouted. And then Chandler saw me. His eyes bulged. His hands trembled. This game, the one that had made him rich in our past life, had already been released in this timeline, by me. His lips parted in shock. And then, horror dawned. He finally understood. I had gotten there first. My lips formed silent words. Took you long enough, idiot. Recognition dawned in Chandler's eyes, followed by sheer horror. But he didn't have time to deal with me now. If he didn't contain the scandal, his entire company would collapse on the spot. And then, President Wang entered the venue. Chandler lit up like a drowning man spotting a rope. He ran toward him. Only to be shoved violently aside by Wang's bodyguards. Chandler hit the floor hard. Wang's assistant stepped forward, holding up a document. Our investigation confirms Lynn Corporation's full innocence. The true plagiarist is this obscure startup. Worse, they concealed critical information to fraudulently obtain a 300 million yuan contract from us. We demand immediate repayment, plus a 30% penalty. That clause. Chandler had begged for Wang's endorsement during his IPO preparations and had signed the contract without reading the fine print. Now, the trap he set for others had snapped shut, on himself. At the mention of 9 figures in penalties, Chandler nearly fainted. Wild-eyed, he turned on Jessica and pointed. Don't look at me. She's the legal representative, sue her. Jessica's face contorted in fury. When they founded the company, Chandler had insisted she be listed as the legal owner, calling it a gesture of love. Now she realized, he'd made her the scapegoat from the very start. Her slap echoed through the entire venue. You bastard. I spent months entertaining investors for you, slept with disgusting men to close your deals, and now you throw me away? The entire room froze. Jessica's confession detonated like a bomb. The media darling known for his rags-to-riches romance was now exposed as a predator who prostituted his own girlfriend for business. The livestream chat exploded. So much for an inspirational couple. Just a leech riding her all along. He pimped her out while bragging about his genius? The moment things go south, he sacrifices her. What a man. Chandler's reputation was annihilated. But his survival instinct kicked in. He shoved Jessica aside and ran. I found him days later in a dingy flophouse, still wearing the wrinkled suit from the press conference. A cheap cigarette dangled from his lips. When he saw me, he crawled across the floor on his knees. Monica. I get it now. You remember our past life too, don't you? I was wrong. Jessica manipulated me. But she's paying for it now. You came because you still care, right? Help me rebuild, and I'll treat you right this time, I swear. The hope in his eyes was almost laughable. As if a few sweet words could undo lifetimes of betrayal. I kicked him flat on his back. Still think you're worthy of using me, Chandler? Let me be clear, I came only to watch you fall. Then I turned and calmly negotiated with the motel owner. Moments later, Chandler was tossed out onto the street with his cheap suitcase and his pride in tatters. He looked up from the gutter, still clinging to his delusion. Monica. You're nothing without your family's money. Just wait, I'll climb back up. I don't need your games. I arched a brow, smirking. Exactly. My family's wealth is my advantage. Why do you think I was born into privilege while you can't even afford this dump? And besides, you don't have a later. As I turned to leave, Chandler's once doting aunt stormed up out of nowhere, disheveled, shrieking. You jinx. You debt-ridden vermin. She rained punches on him in a rage, emptied his pockets, and in her frenzy, gouged out one of his eyes. Desperate and broken, Chandler crawled to Jessica's apartment. But she was already drowning in debt, left behind to face the storm he'd created. When she saw him at the door, her eyes burned. 2 sharp slaps cracked through the room. He grabbed her wrist gently. Jessica, I was wrong. But I can fix this. There's a CEO, he likes women like you. Help me close this deal, and I'll give you the life you deserve. Jessica froze. She knew that name. The man was a sadist, infamous for girls disappearing after one night with him. You signed those contracts, she screamed. I'm not going down for this. She yanked him toward the door. We're going to the police. Chandler exploded. He slapped her hard. You bitch. You'd betray me too? He lunged, hands closing around her throat. Jessica gasped, choking as her face began to darken. Her fingers fumbled across the table. And found the fruit knife. With all her strength, she plunged it into his neck. Blood sprayed in an arc. Chandler collapsed, lifeless. Jessica stood frozen until the police arrived. I heard about their fate while choosing my university major. My college entrance exam scores had surpassed even those of my past life. Now, with my spot secured in a top-tier computer science program, and my family's company already entrusted to me, I smiled. This time, I'll claim my happy ending. Alone.